Mixed Media Movies.
Oh, I did it. Perfect. Last minute. Welcome back to Mixed Media Live. This is a live podcast happening every Friday at 7 p.m. And right now we're going to hop into an Arguing with Reddit segment. Before we had two amazing segments. I think the best interview that we've done so far on the podcast. That was the interview with Leia and Kat on their composition, The Judas Cradle, which is apparently a torture device. If that doesn't attract you to listen about their composition, I don't know what will. It was a white knuckle listen for me, at least.
Oh yeah, sure. It's an exciting piece. I mean, I definitely I start scrolling through, all these pieces and oh my goodness, this is boring. And oh wow, this is actually pretty, this is interesting. Yeah. I had no idea what it is. I did not know it was a torture device. The title is still intriguing enough anyway, but.
Yeah, for sure. And then Nathan talked about Steam Profit, which is him picking out the best, or what he will pick out is the best Steam indie games. I said that in a weird order, but you get what I mean. And right now, I'm in the hot seat. You can see the flames around me. And what I will be doing is reacting to hot takes from around the internet, mostly Reddit, almost always Reddit, because that's where all the hot takes live. And I have not seen them yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull from a hat of links that my co-hosts here have found for me about film and media, probably something like that. And I'm going to put them up and react to them live. I believe Producer Wife found me one as well, so I'll be using that too. Let's see. Let's pull out of the hat. So let's see what this one says. So, Nathan, do you want to actually summarize this? This is like a whole essay.
Don't read the whole thing. It's not necessary. So what it is someone saying their most anticipated movies of 2022. The name of the movie is the first part of each bullet. So there's not that much actually. You can just ignore. If you want to read down the list, or you want me to read down the list, I don't really care. Of 10 movies. Most anticipated movies of 2022 for this particular Reddit user.
That would be a fantastic. I'd watch that film, Batman and the Umbrella Weight of Fantastic.
I heard about this film. They just told me it was Robert Pattinson who is starring in this film, and I think that's a very interesting pick. I really respect Mr. Pattinson for sure. I think he is definitely underrated. I think he got caught up in the stardom of Harry Potter and Twilight, and kind of became a meme because he's the guy.
I didn't actually know that. I didn't know any of those things.
You didn't know Robert Pattinson was the vampire in Twilight? Whatever his name is, Edward or something?
I've heard his name before, definitely. I just I looked at his face and it looks kind of familiar. I figured I never watched anything from him, which I haven't watched Twilight, I guess, but I've seen his face before.
Don't watch Twilight.
But who's he in Harry Potter?
Huh?
Who's he in Harry Potter?
He's Cedric? Cedric Diggory or something? Oh,
maybe.
Yeah, that was before Twilight.
Okay. That's unfortunate, but okay.
He's good in Harry Potter as well. In Twilight, he's not good. He's not good at all.
Nice.
But I have seen him in. So he was in. The most recent thing I saw him was in Tenet. And he did an excellent job in Tenet. I didn't like the film. I thought it was average. I gave it a 2.5. Sorry, Nolan fans. And I'm a Nolan fan, so. But his performance was definitely one of the highlights of that film. Very excellent, nuanced. Especially for a big blockbuster movie where he's playing a tropey type character. He just really found the little details in this character that I kind of felt like he made them up himself. This little word, the way he pronounced word, it just disappeared into this role, despite the fact that he was not a leading character, but he still put that effort in. So I'm excited to see him as Batman. I don't know if that's a spicy opinion or not, if other people are excited as well. I'm not sure what people's general opinion of him is at this point, but I think he's a pretty excellent actor. So that's cool. I don't know anything about the production of the film. I love me Batman is my favorite hero by far. You know, I love seeing iterations of Batman or Batman related things. So I'm kind of excited to see what comes out of this, although at the same time nervous because it's another superhero movie and I'm not exactly sure what they're going for with it. If this is in the Justice League universe, well, I'm not that excited. If this is one of those independent DC films like Joker was, and there was one other one, I can't remember what it is, but where they're not inside the universe, but they're sort of a character exploration, I am so down. We can do that all day. So that's interesting. So I don't know that much about it, so that's my opinion there. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I have no idea what that movie is. I've never heard of it. It's a Nick Cage. No. With the Avengers of Nick Cage movies. That's exciting. that description alone is exciting. I love meme. If it's a meme Nick Cage movie, I love it. I don't like when he's trying to act seriously. That is not fun. But when he's being a meme, it's freaking hilarious. When he's being himself, essentially. Then it's freaking hilarious. I don't know if the movie's supposed to be hilarious or not, but that's interesting. Doctor Strange, don't care. Next. Knives Out 2. I loved Knives Out 1. Or I guess I should say surprised me for sure. In terms of its structure, its engagingness, its ability to balance fun and drama at the same time, not being too cornery until the very end. It gets a little bit sappy, but otherwise a pretty fun film. So I would definitely give Knives Out 2 a consideration.
I don't know how you could get I don't know how that could ever live up to the first one.
Yeah. I don't know either. I'm not sure where when I saw that he was going to create a franchise out of this, I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same detective. I can't remember what his name is anymore, but we need another. That was refreshing because it wasn't the same as every other detective story generally. Exactly.
I don't know, and I'm not sure that what made the movie special was the detective Daniel Craig's character itself, or if it was just the overall aesthetic and tone and everything and how unique, like you said, it was. So I'm not sure if Daniel Craig is supposed to be the reason I watched the next one or something like that. I don't know if I see that, because I think the overall experience was really what made it special. So yeah, that's my opinion on that. Killers of the Flower Moon. Who is this? I don't know anything about it. Sorry. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So is this a sequel to Into the Spider-Verse? If it is, then huh?
I will look it up.
Yes, look it up. If that's the sequel, I'm excited for that. I really liked Into the Spider-Verse. Again, as you could tell from me skipping Doctor Strange, I'm really, really, really fatigued by superhero stuff in general, and I'm really, really, really fatigued by particularly Marvel-based content. That being said, Into the Spider-Verse was independently created by Sony, independent of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, although they're starting to cross-pollinate with Disney, which is giving me vibes. What?
It is a sequel to that, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so, but it was very unique, the first iteration here. I kind of feel like it might not live up to its uniqueness in the prior iteration. I don't know anything about it, again, what people are saying about it. But hopefully it's good. There's a chance I'll see it in a theater for sure. The Killer and the Northman. Those are two separate films. Oh, The Killer. Oh yeah, I've seen The Killer discussed in a few areas. Who is that? Who directs The Killer? Let's find out. Oh, it's a remake. Okay. Oh, it's David Fincher. That's why it popped up in my radar. Now, last time I saw a David Fincher film, it was quite the disappointing experience with Mank. It was just not good. Not good. Especially past the first act. I have faith in the guy to do something good. Maybe it was a fluke. So we'll see what happens with The Killer. I think he's a fantastic director otherwise.
If it's a remake too, I mean, probably less room for whatever it is that you didn't like about Mank.
I won't get into Mank.
That's why I said you can listen to our podcast somewhere out there where Irving gets into why he did not like Mank.
Yeah, it's in one of the Oscar episodes if you're looking for it. And there's a good chance, if I see it, I think it's interesting, I'll see that as well. I can be anticipated for that. I love David Fincher, one of my early inspirations. In fact, I think the people who affect my personal art the most are probably Fincher for story structure and the use of the potential usefulness of shock value, I would say, or like how to use shock value in an artistic way. Although I don't think it's always. Sometimes it's a little bit much, but it's probably Fincher, Scorsese, and Malick are probably the ones. It's a weird combination of directors, but when it comes to like how like images and writing styles that come to me, it's those three directors that really affect the way I think about things. Malick more for the presentation of philosophy in film, and then Scorsese for that overall aesthetic that is just so good. So good.
Have you watched any of the Tarkovsky films that you bought?
No, not yet. I might watch one tonight. Yeah.
See, that I think you'll find like him and Malick very kind of interesting relationship.
I'm so excited. You have no idea. I'm really excited. Definitely a chance I watch a Tarkovsky film tonight. Okay, and The Northman, I don't know anything about that one either. Or I don't know anything about that one. Epic Viking Revenge Tale. It'd be cool. Thor Love. Is this another Thor film? I'm sorry. Love and Thunder? Is that the name of the film? Thor Love and Thunder? I have not seen... Huh?
Is it presumably?
Now, I have not seen Ragnarok, and I heard it's actually really great. So I've heard. I've also heard that before and been very disappointed when it comes to Marvel films. Like, oh, this one's different. And honestly, I feel like that's said more and more these days, oddly enough. And maybe it is. Maybe I should give Ragnarok a look at, because it's directed by Taika Waititi, and anything I've seen from him is pretty freaking unique and cool. So yeah, I mean, I probably won't watch it unless there's like some, like, I don't know, the world gives me a reason to watch it. Maybe I'll watch it for the sake of the podcast, maybe. But I really hate spending money on Disney films, so that's probably the biggest barrier to entry. Nope. Jordan Peele. I love Jordan Peele's directing so far. He's directed 2 films, Us, which I think most people know about, and then I think a lot of people know about. Sorry, not Us. What was the other one? Dang it.
Get Out.
Get Out. Get Out is what most people probably know, and then Us, probably a lot of people also know as well. Great entries into his career. I think Get Out was a little bit fresher, but Us was a little bit deeper. And I'm super excited to see what he puts out next. Don't know anything about it, but he's got a very, very almost feels well-seasoned directing style, or like seasoned like a mid-career director, which is surprising from someone who only has 2 entries. So definitely would look forward to that. Lightyear, I saw an ad for that before I saw Encanto in the theater, which is a Buzz Lightyear movie by Pixar. I think that's an interesting choice. I am not going to question the amazing people at Pixar thus yet. They've got a few bad ones, right? They've got Cars 2 and 3. And
have you watched the third Cars, by the way?
Oh, I've caught some things from it on TV, and then I was just like, "There's no way I'm."
I see. So I feel like maybe I've watched it. I don't know. If I did, I don't remember it. But I've heard that, like, kind of the weird part about, like, at least part of the weird thing about Cars 2, right, is like it goes from like a racing movie to like is not racing, right? It kind of I don't know, loses its like core identity, right?
Yeah.
I heard it goes back though in Cars 3, so I was wondering if that helped in any way.
Interesting. I mean, from what I remember, there's a lot of dumb slapstick humor and just like, I don't know. I mean, the last thing they made was Soul, right? If I remember. Okay, so Soul was good. I don't think it was like earth-shattering for me at least, but I thought it was good. Everything in the Toy Story universe has done really well, or they've done really well with, so we'll see what happens. Mission Impossible 7. This is a confession. I have not seen any Mission Impossible film, and they look like they might be up my alley as just a fun action movie that really don't get created as much anymore. So I got to check them out. I'm not sure if I'll start from beginning to end, or if there's like because that's a lot of films to commit to, or if there's like a recommended like top 3 or something that I should look at. But if you have recommended Mission Impossible films, go ahead and hit them up in the comments or on our Discord or something, and I'll definitely take a look at getting those and popping them in for sure. Mr. What's his face? Tom Cruise is extremely insane with his stunts. Extremely insane. So there's that. Let's see. Elvis, Black Adam, The Flash, Jurassic World, Dominion. I don't know what the last one there. Oh, I can scroll because this is actually a proper page. Oh my. Okay. I did not know there were that many. So I'm just going to read through them real quick. So we've got Jurassic World Dominion, The Whale, The Next Goal Wins, Avatar 2, Sonic 2, Hocus Pocus 2, Disenchanted, The Lost City, Bullet Train, The Gray Man, The Bad Guys. Oh, interesting. Turning Red, Morbus, an untitled David O. Russell project, The Samaritan, Aquaman, and The Last Kingdom, 3,000 Years of Longing. So basically take the DC universe films and throw them away. I'm not interested, pretty much. And then Jurassic World Dominion, I am... The first Jurassic World hot take, I think, is actually like an okay film, right? Like, I think a lot of people poop on that film for no reason. It's just stupid fun. You'll probably forget most of the stuff that happens in it. Chris Pratt has charisma, is really basically the point of that film, and the charisma is kind of engaging. So I don't hate the first Jurassic World, but the second Jurassic World was literally torture. Watching it in the theater, that was horrible. So I will probably not trust them ever again with my money. It was literally an incoherent film. Avatar 2. I'm hyped to see what James Cameron does. The dude can save cinema single-handedly if these projects go really well. He took a huge risk front-loading all the Avatar films that he was going to make. He's been literally making them for the past decade. All back to back to back to back. I think he's making 4 films, if I remember, 4 films total, I believe. So we'll see how they are. I'm kind of tense because I know they'll draw massive audiences, and if you upset those massive audiences in this very, very scary season for cinema, I'll be very afraid of what happens afterwards. But he has he could single-handedly the guy breaks records whenever he makes a film. And there's a reason, because he tends to use, I guess, timeless structures, but in fresh and engaging ways. You know, the timeless hero's journey, like, first Avatar is basically Pocahontas, right? A whole new way of presenting that story, but that is very, almost like primally familiar, if that makes sense. So he does that very well. I don't care if it shatters my world. I just want it to shatter the box office and be a good film, and deserve it. Okay, and I don't know if I have a comment about any of the other ones, really. I've got to get to the next. I'll leave it at that. So this one says, I think this one's from Steph, from Producer Wife. So she says, she gave me the one that says, higher frame rate animations films are great. I've always hated animations that were 12 to 15 FPS. Anything lower than 24 feels really choppy. 24 is mostly fine, but just the bare minimum. And no, I don't mean interpolation. Nobody likes that. Stop acting like everyone who likes high frame rates likes interpolation. With high frame rates, animation, and films, I mean those that were meant to be watched at those high frame rates, such as 48 FPS. That's a very interesting hot take, actually. So frame rate, FPS, frames per second, is basically how many images makes up a second of a movie, if you didn't know. And so 24 is the standard. It's been the standard practically forever. The way that standard came about was finding, because it used to be film, like physical film, and so film was expensive. Every frame that you waste shooting is a frame that you have to pay for, right? So 24 was kind of what came to be, that the industry found acceptable in terms of motion, but also efficient in terms of frames used. Now, Mr. Thomas Edison, who actually invented film, or at least the process, I should say, he made really terrible films, and his idea of what film as an art could be were really awful. Clearly just an engineer, but he wanted it to be 12 frames per second because he thought that the extra 12 frames were just a waste, and that motion was properly translated at 12 frames per second. Now, I heavily disagree with that. The difference between 12 and 24 frames per second is quite drastic in terms of fluid motion. But you can also detect above 24 very easily. From 24 to 30 already feels different. In fact, if you want to test this notion, if you think that I'm lying, pop in a movie on your TV, just a few seconds. Any random movie is almost certainly going to be 24 frames per second. And then turn on your news channel and see how they feel on your TV. News is 30 frames a second, films are 24 frames a second, and they drastically feel different. In fact, some films will have 30 frames per second sections inside the film that basically, usually it's like a news segment or something like that, something that's supposed to be on TV in the film. And to reproduce that feeling of TV's frame rate, they'll show that segment at 30 frames per second. If that makes sense. So these things have drastic feeling difference. Sports, 60 frames a second. It feels completely different. Feels super fluid, almost like surreally fluid. Sports broadcasts usually, at least modern sports broadcasts, are usually 60 frames per second, and so on and so forth. Gaming, right? You want as many frames as you could possibly get. People want 100 frames a second, 120 frames per second, something like that. 60 is considered like a minimum, right? So all these frames per second have different feels. Now, the problem, though, I have with the high frame rate discussion is that there's an association. There are two different discussions that are being had usually, and they're usually being conflated. One is that films feel filmic when they're at 24 because that's the association. Not necessarily that's the, that's what's best in that regard, right? It's the association of cinematic is 24 frames a second. The second thing I have to say, and that association is strong, like you can't underestimate that. So when you up the frame rate, like you can't expect people to feel like it feels like a movie, right? They might not be able to put their words on it, but the movie The Hobbit experienced this. I think it was 48 frames a second that they shot The Hobbit at. And a lot of people complained that it was just too weird looking, or like it didn't feel polished, which is funny because it has more frames in it. Or like, there's just something off about it. Some people said they got a headache, which I think is interesting because I wonder if there's a brain expectation difference between what your brain expects to see in a cinema versus what you actually receive. So that's all interesting stuff that you have to consider as a filmmaker. So that's just on the association side. Then there's the artistic side of, okay, should I ever subvert the 24 frames a second for a specific reason and, go a different way for a specific reason? And my answer is maybe. I don't know. I personally can never think of a reason why I would not shoot in 24 frames a second. Just on an artistic level, I really can't think of one. But if you can think of one that makes sense and you can articulate at least somewhat, if you're a director, right? A good test as to whether or not your idea is not just just you saying it and so it's true, is try to articulate your idea. And it might be hard, but just spend the time and just like really spend that time with yourself and articulate why you want to do what you want to do. And usually that'll help you understand what you're doing, or help you understand that you are fooling yourself and in thinking that it'll be a good idea to shoot at a higher frame rate.
I think it's also worth noting that like the same argument that we're making like about film and like cost effectiveness still applies to digital video, because space requires hard drives, right? And if you double the frame rate as double the storage, and it's not like an MP4 video, right? It's like these things are massive file formats, relatively speaking. And then like not only do you have to double the storage capacity, but also I would hope you have multiple copies of the stuff saved just in case something goes wrong. So then you end up you could end up increasing storage by many times the video, I guess.
Yep, for sure. Like I will never, like my YouTube process could never be 30 frames a second. Even that difference between 24 and 30 is just not worthwhile for my workflow in terms of the storage requirements, right? And that difference in frame number is going to be significant. But I know a lot of YouTubers who do shoot 30 or 60 FPS YouTube videos, and they'll put them up, and there's a specific reason why they do that. Some people are going for that TV look at 30. Some people want that fluidity at 60 for whatever reason, whether it's gaming or there's a specific aesthetic that they're trying to go for. So
it's kind of how I feel about like 3D modeling, and if I'm pulling a texture from online or something like that, and there'll always be like these different resolution set like options. You can get like the 2K texture, the 4K texture, 8K, and sometimes 16K and stuff like that. And it's like a balance between how much space do I want to use my computer versus how good do I want it to look. And I guess it depends on how close are we looking at this texture? Because if it was like a far away texture, if it's 1K, no one's gonna even notice, But even when it's close up, I'm like, do I really want the 8K texture? It also takes longer to render, stuff like that. So
yeah. So that was an interesting question. It's something I've thought about, but I never thought about vocalizing my opinion about. So that's cool. Okay,
I was gonna say I was actually I read this post before the show started. That was interesting. Is the first comment. That's what it's called. Interesting.
Oh, what was the first comment?
It's on the screen.
Pull it up. Here,
you took it off. I realized.
I'll put it up again. Let's see.
Okay.
So it says, this isn't really any objection to your post, just a cool animation fact that... Oh, I forgot to talk about animation. Yeah, animation is 12 FPS. I forgot to say that. The reason why, if you think about animation, if you're drawing cells, right, drawing 24 versus 12 is a huge difference. But the association with animations, right, is 12 frames per second now. Now, if you watch a 24 frames a second animation, it'll look a little bit weird to you, although I think it will look a lot less weird than I think your brain is. I've seen 24 per second animation, and it looks kind of more like a regular, in a live action film feel to it, because that's your brain's association with that. 12 frames per second is very choppy, and they're talking about Into the Spider-Verse, where the frames change. Miles Morales begins the movie at 12 FPS, makes him seem bulkier, more awkward, and less smooth than the rest of the characters. Throughout the film, Miles gradually increases in frame rate until the end, where he becomes a more skilled Spider-Man, reaching 24 FPS like the rest of the characters. I noticed that, and it was brilliant work by the animation team there. And that's exactly a good example of how you can use frame rate, as an artistic tool. So I couldn't think of one. It was an example right there.
In anime, for example, generally, I guess it's usually when things are happening fast, the frame rate increases. It seems very dynamic. It doesn't feel like it's ever one frame rate. I think that's part of the reason why the 3D Beast Titan Attack on Titan looks so bad. Is because his frame rate is like 60 or something like that. I don't know. It's a lot faster. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, I guess maybe it would have looked also wrong because he's 3D, and if you reduce the frame rate, maybe it's like another expedition thing with like 3D things, and it shouldn't be like 12 FPS or something like that. But I'm assuming that's one of the things, because I think that really sticks out like a sore thumb. But yeah, I remember like an anime called Fate, I was talking about it with someone, and one of the things that were interesting was like, oh yeah, during like combat scenes, like the frame rate increases, and that's super cool, right? Because like they put a lot more effort and stuff like that. So I guess yeah, you can use it. You can use it during high motion scenes. I guess is desired.
Yeah, for sure. Go ham if you want to use it as a creative tool. I'm just saying, just know what you're getting into. You're fighting like literally what, like 100 years, whatever, however old cinema is. You're fighting, well, more than that. So you're fighting a long-standing tradition in terms of association of your brain. That's all I'm trying to tell you. In terms of being careful for what you ask for. Let's see.
This one is pretty short, so you can just get through it quickly.
Okay, good. This one says views on spoilers. Is it the first comment, Ben? That
I think basically the main thing is if you go down to like the second comment, right? We have someone who actually has a spoiler in there, right? Mm-hmm. And the person replies to that and says, "If I hadn't known that this was going to happen, then I wouldn't have wanted to go see the film." Yeah, basically that's it. So you have, the original post, I think, making a claim that spoilers are not good because they ruin like the, film. Supposed to enjoy it first, like, in its original intended format. You don't know what's going to happen, and then you can go back and appreciate it in a different way later. But if you know that at the beginning when you're not watching the film the way it's meant to be watched, and you have a person saying that, well, if I don't have spoilers, I might not want to watch the film to begin with.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think I've said this opinion before about spoilers, and it's a very strong opinion. Basically, the film was made, unless it's general knowledge, unless it's the author, unless it's something that's sort of culturally ubiquitous reference. But okay, I'll backtrack for a second. When a writer writes a story, they are writing knowing the audience that they're writing for, and knowing what that audience knows going in, most likely, right? If you're making general audience stuff or you're targeting certain types of audiences, you're going to assume certain types of knowledge going into it. So, when the writer puts the pen to paper, that's what they're thinking of. Now, there's something artificial that happens that they cannot control, right? Is that people see the film at different times, right? So people will see the film. I mean, this is not just spoilers. This is, reviews too, or trailers, or synopses, or critic reactions, or actors going around and doing. So all this stuff all this stuff is part of industry, part of the economics of film. You can't really change that aspect of things, so there's no hope in trying to do that. But what I think you can do to respect the writer's intention going into a film is not spoil yourself. If you want to see the film, there's only one time you get to see the film. Like, films are meant to, for the most part, I would say, a lot of films are meant to be rewatched, or like at least rewatchability is generally desired, right? You can always rewatch the film if you really liked it, right? But what you can't ever do once you spoil yourself is recover the knowledge starvation that you had going into the film. So you've permanently removed that experience from yourself, which is its native format. That is the native format of that film. Again, unless there's some cultural reference or it's a story that's well known, blah, blah, blah. You get what I'm saying, those caveats there. So I think in terms of respecting the intention of the film and watching it in a way that you can't, like, it's supposed to be watched, that you can never recover again once you've spoiled yourself, I think this person should consider looking at things in a different way. I think for some people it's tension, that they just don't like the tension of not knowing. I think that is essentially a habituation problem, right? So try to loosen yourself up a little bit. Maybe spoil yourself a little bit less the next film or something like that. I'm trying not to. I'm not talking down to anyone, right? Like, I'm not trying to speak down to anyone or sound like my way of watching film is grand or something like that. I'm just saying that I think we assume certain ways of consuming things are the best for us because we're used to consuming them that way. So I just recommend that you try watching them, not spoiling yourself as much. Maybe you can build up that habit. If it's tension, that's the problem. If it's, I don't know, whatever the problems could be, or you like watching the movie in light of what you know will happen, that's something that the writer thinks about as well, right? When they write the piece for repeated viewing. So I'd say just try to experience the piece once, the only time you could ever do it. Don't forfeit it, willfully. And then if you really love it, you can watch it again and get that experience that you already have, which is knowing what happens, which can be a whole different kind of satisfaction for sure. And I don't dispute that. So that's my opinion on spoilers. So if you're on the Discord, if you're in the chat, please don't spoil things for people if they don't want to be spoiled. That part, at least, we can somewhat control, spoiling others and trying to avoid spoilers. So that's my opinion. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. We've got to get through news. So thank you guys for stopping by at Arguing with Reddit. We're going to hop really quick into the news section. If you want to see that, you've got to check out our podcast. Got to go on Spotify, whatever podcasting platform you like. And you've got to first give us 5 stars. Then you've got to go ahead and check out the news section for this week, because we're going to be talking about stuff that maybe you don't know is happening. So there we go.